It was actually, what was written in the Bible was actually derived from Plato's philosophy that we do not wish to be responsible for. It had a lot to do with, hey there guys, I really have no clue how long today's video is. This is, and I'm being stupid right now, really stupid. Because I have a call coming in a few seconds. Not seconds, I don't know how long. It could be seconds, it could be minutes, it could be hours. But this won't be an hour-long video either way. Is to do with, I said in the last video that my next video would be a day later, and that was, I didn't know it at the time, but a blatant lie. So now here we are. About a week-ish, I'd say, give or take, a few days later. Cool water tower up there. I don't know if you can see it well. It's my really crappy front-facing camera quality. But again. Today, I said in the last video I was going to go over my ethics class and stuff. And, well, that's not what we're doing. It might have a bit to do with that. But I wanted to just consider one specific topic, even if it is for a short period of time, and go over my few short opinions on it that I consider today. I had philosophy today, so that's where a chunk of this thought process is coming from. And we were talking about Descartes and his philosophy, specifically his first meditation, and I have 2 classes actively going over that, but his first meditation on, well, not first meditation, because there's 6 meditations, Descartes' meditations, and we were reading about first one, and it's on what's called First Philosophy, because he's considered the father of modern philosophy. It is called it First Philosophy, which is what we now know today as metaphysics, which is fun. Whatever. But a lot of the stuff he's saying, basically his goal with the meditations was to break down and start from the beginning with philosophy. Not to listen to whatever, I don't even know what philosophy was called at the time. I think it was like medieval, what? Okay, well, it was medieval something. If I'm feeling not lazy, I'll put it in the description. But he did a lot to do with philosophy. He was a well-studied individual, very, very smart. And the one thing I was struggling with when reading it, and this isn't out of, this is just my own personal question, because it doesn't come from, oh, I didn't read all of the text. I haven't read everything he's written, by the way. I've now read a decent chunk, not just the meditations, of course, but I was reading some of the textbooks for my philosophy classes for fun, and they have a lot of his writings in them. It's been really interesting. But when he was starting off, and I get why, in a sense, but what he mentions a lot is God in a lot of his ideas. God is a very prominent thing. The entire goal of it almost is to prove versus disprove God when he was starting his meditations. But my question derived from that is, why do so many people want there to be a God? And this isn't out of whether I believe in a God, someone else believes in a God, or anything. It's or if I don't believe in God. It doesn't matter either way. Like, I think I still have the same question even if I was religious. Because religion is having the faith in God or gods And I know why we created religion to begin with. And it has to do with just our lack of understanding with the universe and the world, which we still do have quite a large lack of. But my question was, as I already said, though, why do we want a God? Why is that idea so appealing to us? Right? And like I'm someone who wanted to be religious for a while. I tried to develop faith and I just mentally could not achieve it. And that's probably through shortcomings on my end. But nonetheless, now that I thought about it, why do we want there to be a God? And not even just like, and if anyone sees this and tries to answer it, please try doing so without quoting a religious text, because that's not... Religious texts can't prove themselves. Like, it's like when I ask for someone to give it, if a teacher or something asks you to, describe something, you can't use the thing in the description, right? Like, a tree looks like a large tree with many branches. Doesn't work. So, as I was saying, when it comes to God, outside of just having an innate faith in it, and some people, they wouldn't even think, why would we want a God? To a lot of people, I imagine, the concept is there is a God, that's as deep it goes, but really ponder it. And I mean, to try and remove oneself from the subscribed idea that it is all true. I mean, like, that's literally one of the first questions we've got asked in one of our past units. I think a semester ago, the very first question was, is there anything that there's not, like, someone out there who would doubt it? Is there anything you can say for 100% certain? And for some people, they can say yes to that, but there's always a logical argument to a point of reasonable doubt for literally anything. And this is a weird one to throw in, but us living in a simulation idea, that's like completely plausible. I wouldn't say I subscribe to that idea or that notion, but I would not say it's impossible. The same way I don't say, I'm not an atheist. I'm agnostic, I guess, would be the right term for it. I don't think, if a God exists, I don't think any of the religions have gotten it right. First off, because if God exists, we wouldn't know that much about any of it. Because the universe is massive and we don't matter that much. And that's my personal perspective. I don't think all of this is created for us, and I can't imagine we are the most important thing. In a full universe, is there really a most important thing? Is also a good question. But, I mean, that's why Galileo was so hated. He realized the Earth wasn't the center of everything, and people were like, boo! They weren't a big fan of him, to say the least. Anyway, to continue with it, I think we believe in a God out of... There's many reasons. Some people, and most reasons, are selfish. And I don't say that in a, how could we? As I said in my last video, humans are innately selfish. I think all creatures are, because it just has to do with built-in survival instinct. It's just how we work. There's nothing against that. There's, how can you be selfish? Selfish that I would condone would be stealing food from the homeless. That's something I'd say, that's not really nice. That's something I'd be against. But basic selfishness, like hoping or believing in something, even if the root of it is selfish, there's nothing wrong with that, really. In my mind, at least. Other people have different opinions. That's the magic of the world. But for me, when it comes to God, I believe, let's see, I'll come up with 5 reasons why I think we believe in God, or want there to be a God. And one, and I'm just going to go with the big tension and what could be considered not the greatest to share my opinion on, one would be that we do not wish to be responsible for our actions. And that's a lot of the people who are in the same set of believing in religions are also, if you look at philosophers, hard determinists. And now this doesn't apply to all of them, by the way. But most hard determinists are oftentimes religious because it is almost a faith, It's believing that all actions and everything that happens is either controlled, set by something or someone, or just predetermined. It's all set to happen the way it's going to happen. And there's a whole thing in philosophy, because we can't prove either of them, which is free will, not either, all of them, free will, soft determinism, and hard determinism. We can't prove any of them to be 100% true, But it's very easy to argue for hard determinism, because you can say, literally everything in the world has led you to that moment. And that's true. That's objectively true. Everything has led you to that moment. In my mind, I say you get to make a decision in the moment. Hard determinist mind, that decision's already made for you because of your past experiences. Raised in my left hand there was predetermined. And sure, it might have been, because I've seen people use that as an example, and every time I've seen them use it, they've done their left hand. So conclusively, in my mind, the left hand was the only hand to raise for that demonstration. It could all predetermined. Every action, even me recording this video, was going to happen just with the life I've led. That's how it's meant to happen. And I think one can see how that relates to the idea of a God. Because, higher being is able to be omnipotent and all-powerful and can make these decisions. Because if something is hard determined, the word in there, determined, something determined it. Not, well, of course not, it's just said. But I mean, most of the time with this, you'll see a lot of people write about, it's been determined, or something determined it, which would lead to the idea of God again. But the whole thing with hard determinism that philosophers talk about is, if everything is hard determined, then can we possibly at all be responsible for our actions? And personally, I would say, if everything is based on hard determinism, everything is set in stone. Now, you didn't choose to make an action then, right? It was set to happen no matter what. And a lot of people find comfort in the hard determinism. This is a little bit of an odd transition in about I'd say week and a half later follow-up to the video I was recording. Don't know the actual time, but it's atrocious at this point, and I figured I'd get around to it at some point twice in a sentence. And it's because I've had a lot of thoughts about the video. I, before recording this, listened to it back to try and hear what I was trying to say, see if it was actually reasonable points, and to continue talking about it. And I realized, it really isn't. I was kind of saying a lot of information because I seem to be a fan of delving into topics that require a lot of context to really work into. It's a great area for having those questions, but what I really needed to do, and now will probably do in hindsight, is say the question and answer it to the best of my abilities. If people want to form their own and do their own research, that's plenty okay. It's not like there is an audience to be doing that anyway. What I'm going to do with this, and continue to use this space to be, is more of a journal. Maybe it'll be philosophy focused. Maybe it won't. I'm going to just kind of, in a way, lock in on whatever I want to say for the day. If I've had an interesting day, maybe I'll just talk about that. I'll use this more as a journal, perchance. But so just to get what the first half of this video has been, and I didn't want to cut it out or start over because they were still my thoughts nonetheless, was why do we want God to exist? For me then, that was a more difficult question. Now it's kind of a stupid one. You can kind of just look at history and people's behaviors and get a very simple and easy to analysis answer out of that. I guess I was trying to ask it more philosophically, but there's a fun analysis to be had there. But I neither have the time nor willpower to explain everything behind it. So, essentially, a lot of it, as I did say, and I was getting into it, I think, comes from human selfishness and a idea of self-importance that is simply not true. And then I mentioned Galileo for a bit, whatever. It's because we want to be the center of the universe. That is such a fun idea. We come from a planet where we would be an ape. We are the apex species. We've taken control and use of the planet's materials and resources. And there is literally no animal alive that can beat a human who has prep time. So, our minds being our greatest weapons and all. So religion derived from that, making there be this ultimate being who loves us and has created a world around us, which I fervently disagree with, because as I previously stated, there is no shot we are the center of the universe. There's not a chance. We're not that important. And it's the idea of us not being special that people dislike so much. And I'm not going to use harsh words here, no matter how easy it would be to do so. But it is a very, in my opinion, strange thing to believe that we would be the center of it all. First off, to have the faith that there is a higher being. And second off, to then believe that that higher being sees us as this grand thing. Recently, in my ethics and philosophy classes, we have delved a lot into Jesus, Paul, and how a lot of it was actually, what was written in the Bible was actually derived from Plato's philosophy. Paul kind of added to it, because Plato believed that there was a way we could become greater beings ourselves with our souls, and by that, traveling up and going from human being to a higher being, and by that process called the second order. Paul said, hey, there's an issue with that. There has to have been a way we got to know this information, and that being a higher being traveling down to tell us this information, which at the time, since Jesus was a very good representation of Plato's philosophy and the virtues, so they thought, oh, that's an easy correlation to make, and I can see how they thought that this person who represents the virtue so strongly, this person must be something that traveled down through first order, a higher being down to us, and shared all of it with us. So they thought of Jesus as a higher being, thus being able to think of him as God, when in reality, I'm not going to actually say in reality, because who knows, maybe religions are right, maybe Christianity got it dead on. But then what I believe to be more accurate to reality is Jesus was an incredible philosopher who had followed what was a very virtuous path, and it was so virtuous and so good to the point that other people then believed that he was a higher being come down to deliver the messages by process of the first order so we could ascend to being higher beings ourselves through processes of the second order. And if that's all it would be fine. But as we know through history, many religions, especially Christianity, has been twisted in a way for people to use it to their own self-gain. And that is really why we want a religion or a God. It's because it's able to empower us in a sense. Sure, for some people it's great. I know a few examples of some of my friends who are religious, who do amazing things and have that faith. And that is not something I would ever, and yes, I do talk to them about it, and I've had arguments with them about it, but it's not a heated or, in any way, a violent argument by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of trying to understand. How can someone hold such a strong faith? Because, as I also previously mentioned, it's something that I was interested in doing. I wanted to have a religion to be faithful to. Because I was going through a very hard part in my life, and I heard so many stories about, oh, these people turn to religion, oh, these miracles, these great things. But since I was able to get through that on my own, it's something I have much harder time having a faith in. Whatever, I have a lot of my own reasons, and I might go into that down the line. But what I'm really trying to say is, religion itself can be a great thing. I've seen people who it is a great thing for. But the main reason we want God is to give an explanation to the universe, and B, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, I think that's his name, a lot of realists who also believed in God, even David Hume, who was a empiricist, believed in God, and they have a lot of their own reasons, but nonetheless, I think the idea for a God is now at the point of it is either actual faith, and this is a kind-hearted person who believes in the virtues and wants to follow the religious path and thinks that it's something that is true because they were raised with it, or the other option is it's someone who is in a position of power who is able to use it for control. And I think that's the main reason to even have a religion. I think we're pretty much at the point where political parties are almost to the same level as religions because there's a whole lot of beliefs spread across them. They're very similar. But yes, that is why overall that was basically the message I was trying to get across with what do I think, why do we believe in God? I hope this was a much more simplistic, I know it has a bit of a runtime, this video, but a very direct view on what I think. Thanks for watching.